morning, Miramar, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tamara G. Don't forget, you can check us out on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at City of Miramar. And I can't think of a better way to start Women's History Month than with my very special guest today. She is Miss Ann McNeil. She is the president and owner of MCO Construction. And also she's the founder of the National Association of Black Women in Construction. And so happy to have you here today, Ann. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. Excited to be here. Your mayor is one of my favorites. So whatever I can do to add value to the residents of the city, and one of my very best friends, actually one of our first presidents, is also a resident of Miramar. Miss Dorothy Brown Farah is in electrical. So this is going to be exciting.
This is exciting for so many reasons. Okay, first of all, Ann McNeil, you own a construction company. And I know in 2022, it may seem like that shouldn't even be a big deal, but it really is. And you've been in business for years. Tell us, how did you get started?
Actually, I did what most of us are taught to do: go to school, get a good education, and then get a good corporate job. And one of the books I have behind me is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So 9 p.m. December 31st, 1979, I picked up the book to begin to read it as my husband and friends went out to celebrate the new year. Yes, 9 p.m. December 31st, 1979. That's the day that turned my life around. Because, Tamara, as I began to read the book, it began to read me.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that night, I realized I had been climbing that ladder of success, and it was leaning against the wrong wall in a corporate world, and I needed to come down off that wall and face the woman in the mirror and do some things differently. You see, the author asked me 4 questions. He gave me 6 keys to riches. The first question he asked me, and I want to ask all of your listeners and you too: how much money do you want? On page 28, he said, okay. Ann McNeil, I personalize it. So if I were to ask you in this interview, how much money do you want? You don't have to tell us.
No, I was going to say, I don't even know if I could tell you. What I would probably say is enough to be comfortable. That would be my answer. Okay, so that's not the right answer. Tell me what's the right answer.
That's exactly what I did.
Okay.
That was the first question on the page. And he said the second question was, what are you going to do to get the money? The third question was, by what date do you want the money? But the fourth question was, what's your plan of action? You see, that night, my husband and friends had left to go celebrate the new year. I decided to stay home, read this book. But as I began to read the book, it began to read me. When I got to those questions, I couldn't answer them. So I got down to, you know how we do, you keep reading. He said, okay, take, these questions and create an affirmation statement. And then the number 6, he said, recite them twice a day, once upon rising in the morning, and then once before you go to bed at night. So I got down to the end of the page and I said, you know what, let me go back and answer those questions. Why did I do that? 6 hours later, I still was sitting at that same place at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I could not answer the questions. Wow. I could not answer those questions.
And that's amazing that you know exactly the time, exactly the date when your life changed to do this. And so how did construction come about? Because as you mentioned, those are questions that you could ask anyone, and maybe that construction wouldn't be the answer. They may want to do it some other kind of way, but how did that happen for you?
Great question. You see, as I began to walk through the questions, the next step was, how much money did I want? So I just came up with a wild number, $1,000.
Okay.
The second question was, what are you going to do to raise some money? And I said, I have a good corporate job. Third question was, by what date? I said December 31st, 1980. The fourth question, he said, okay, what's your plan? So I started in my mind. I said, I make this much, I spend this much. I got a negative number.
And a lot of us do that every month. And
I said, I cannot be right. So I did it again on a sheet of paper. The number was bigger, negative. Now, that exercise forced me to take out 11 months of canceled checks and figure out where was the money going. You see, when I did that exercise and realized, well, you already know you're spending more than you're bringing in, but to see it on paper as a young person, and then I said, you know what? I know I can save $1,000 a year. let me get a part-time job on paper. I did the math. I would pay for the privilege of working. I said, well, maybe I'll start a business. And it just still was not going to work. So eventually I realized there was no way, if I kept doing what I was going to do, what I was doing, it was not going to work, because I had all this debt that I'd accumulated a lot of different ways. I'm going to that. That's another show. And so I started crying because I
Wow.
felt hopeless. Now it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm gonna fast forward this story. It's 4 o'clock in the
And
morning.
it's
My
on
husband,
New Year's Day. What are you
well,
doing?
well, this was the new year for me, and I keep reliving it every single year, because when my husband and friends walked in, I'm sitting there crying. He thinks I'm crying over him, so I let him.
Okay.
But the next day, I continued to read the book. Now let me fast forward the story. I'm gonna fast forward the story. I started a mastermind group by continuing to read the book. He talked about form a mastermind group of accountability and serve as accountability for your dreams and and get other people and help support them to do the same thing. As I began to do that, we helped each other learn how to set goals. And my business came out of this exercise, because as I mastermind with other women, I realized I'd bought real estate. My husband and we lived in this house.
Mhm.
Then we were repairing the house and could not figure out how to. So we started going to the library. I come home
This
from
is
work
before
one day.
Google, right? This is before
Oh,
you
this way,
Google
way before
it.
Google. And this is where everything shifted, turned to construction. So we bought the house across the street and we were trying to repair it. Then we bought a house down the street. And now we're trying to repair it on the weekends, because we would just buy for sale, by owner. This is going way back in the 70s. Anyway, so as we began to do that, I came home one day from my corporate job, and my husband said to me, he said, now he graduated valedictorian. We're both graduates from Florida Memorial, my alma mater. I graduated, thank you, Lordy. Okay.
That's two of us.
So I married up. But this is where everything shifted. I come home from work one day and he says to me, if I had it to do all over again, he said, I wouldn't go to college. I'm thinking, really? We both working. He had his advanced degree by then. I was working on an advanced degree. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no. I said, what would you do? He said, I go into construction. I said, are you serious? You go into construction? Why? He said, think about it. These guys, many of them, they did not finish high school.
Mhm.
And they went to trade school. They got a trade, never went to college, no debt. And he said, I did the math. He said, the savings we would make by self-performing the work ourselves is more than you make a year. I said, excuse me? He said, think about it. The money that these guys make an hour is more than you make a day.
And
I
when
said,
you
I'm going to trade school. I
I was
said, I'm
gonna
going to
say,
trade school.
yeah, when you put it like that, it really makes sense. If you are just now tuning in, first of all, thank you so much for doing so. And we are speaking with Ann McNeil. She is the president and owner of CMO Construction, also the founder of the National Association of Black Women in Construction. We are kicking off Women's History Month with her. And she's telling us the background of how she got started in construction. Now, let me ask this, Ann, were you handy at all? Like, were you the person who could actually, unclog a toilet or put in a toilet or put in a floor?
Yes, that's MCO construction.
MCO construction.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yes, my father taught me from from a young girl. He had no boy. He didn't have any boys working in construction.
Mhm.
So I would go to work with him. So I did know a little, but not enough to make any kind of major repairs.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So I began then to, I did end up going to trade school, by the way, and we continued to work um, in our own minor repairs, repairing things. And for those of us that know where the Kravitz Center is in
Yes.
West Palm, where our first property we bought set up underneath that property.
Oh, wow.
And if
And
you know where
look
the
at that
convention,
property now. Wow.
well, we were young, we did not know. So where the convention center sits,
Uh-huh.
our house sat up underneath that property
Wow.
because we lived on Florida Avenue in West Palm Beach coming out of college. So I'm saying that to say you don't know what you don't know. But I believe that as we, if we can be the very best we are for where we are right now, then step by step by step, because that's all I did. And I really don't see it as anything different. My thinking, because of Think and Grow Rich, is different. That's the only difference that I think I am making in terms of serving but learning to become a better Ann McNeil. No competition with anybody else, but am I being the very best that God has called me to be? So that's kind of how I got into construction.
Wow. And that truly is a lot, because even though you had the undergraduate, the advanced degree, you went back to technical school. There are so many people out here today who are poo-pooing the technical side. And I'm one of those people. When I need something fixed, I have to call somebody because I don't know how to do it. And a prime example, I had a problem with the air conditioning. $350 later, my air works perfectly, but I had to pay somebody for that. And so when you see whether it's young men or young women now in construction are wanting to learn a trade, what do you say to those people about doing that?
Well, right before I came on this show with you, I had the privilege of being on a program for Compto, our Palm Beach County Compto, and those, officials in transportation for Palm Beach County, really Palm Beach, Dade, Broward. We have 5 chapters in the state of Florida. And we were speaking with 5 local schools. And I am always encouraging, especially Black girls, to come into this industry as lawyers, as doctors, as professionals, as CPAs. There's so many soft services that construction consists of. Many people don't think about, well, I am a lawyer. What does that have to do with? I sell insurance. What does construction have to? And every single thing you can think of, construction includes, even water. Can you imagine how many gallons of water, millions of gallons are sold to construction sites every single year?
Right, because you got to make the concrete, you got to run them through the
drinking water.
Oh, just drinking water. I was thinking of actually the construction part.
No, I'm thinking about drinking water. So what if
the workers who are there,
they sell water? I'm just trying to bring it down so simple. Right. Anybody can do this. And I like to tell the story, just imagine, where else can a Black woman go that may have 5 or 6 kids? Where else can she go and work and not have to wait for her baby daddy and make 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, sometimes $30 an hour without a GED?
You're right.
As a laborer, $20 an hour when you're working for the government. As a laborer, prevailing wages. And if you're a union employee, you can be making from $30, $40 an hour in the trades without a GED.
Which goes back to what your husband told you right before you guys started all of this, that, there are people who are in construction and in the trade business that are making more money than, you're right, people who have advanced degrees. And,
exactly.
I'm so happy that you're talking about the fact that it is open for everyone to have the opportunity. Now, you have been working on some big projects, particularly there in the Palm Beach area. Tell us a little bit about those projects and what it takes to get those as well, because you don't just walk in and say, you know what, I'm Ann McNeil. Yes, I am great, but they just don't give you the job for that.
No, I'm humble. No, really, really, I'm humbled by the opportunity to serve. And I think that the spirit of service above self, I'm also a Rotarian, and that's our motto, service above self. And I think that when we come from a place of authenticity, if you will, to be willing to learn. And I have been and still am a student of this business of construction. And so this is one of the reasons why in my other business as a professional speaker and coach an author, I teach people how to do this in terms of construction industry. And it's another reason why I started the National Association of Black Women in Construction, in order to create a space for us. And so as I began to work on myself and get ahead of the money, not just following the money.
Mhm.
Let me say that again.
Okay, back
My
up.
desire is to get ahead of the money, not just follow the money.
Okay.
And by doing that in my own business, I began to look at where's the money in my business. And our team, every year, twice a year, we would sit down and we would look at who's working, what's working. We look at the numbers. And we are very big on professional growth and development inside the firm and in our lives personally. So in doing that, 30 years ago, I began to look at larger projects, because I realized from watching the other firms, white firms, Hispanic firms, the architects, the engineers, the contractors, I am involved in every single association that relates to construction that I know of, and total of over 50 different civic associations and organizations. And so when I say everyone, ABC, AGC, CASF, ASB, all those construction, I'm one of the oldest members of the Latin Builders Association here in Miami. I'm not laughing. I'm one of the founders of the Latin Hispanic Chamber with Miriam. And so I say that because from getting involved with the people, I began to realize I could elevate my thinking to look at doing larger projects. So just because I am small does not mean I have to think small.
And you can't be in a silo, right, Ann? Because obviously with construction or any company, all of this works together. Somebody knows somebody that can put down floors. Somebody knows somebody that can put up walls. Somebody knows somebody that can do roofing. So you have to join or be a part of these organizations. You cannot just sit back and say, well, you know what? Why is no one calling me?
Exactly. And so that's what I teach my clients, but also that's what I share with our NABWIC members. So when you're asking about the project in Riviera Beach, I'm born and raised from Riviera Beach. And so for 40 years, I've driven from Palm Beach County to Miami to work.
Wow.
Let me say it again.
You are a soldier, and that is.
People say, oh, how do you know you're driving? I said, how long does it take? You drive it every day back and forth. I say, it's only 4 phone calls.
But you're on each call, what, 15?
One way.
I was gonna say, yes, exactly.
Right.
No, seriously, that's a long drive, and depending on what traffic is like,
it's 5
day.
calls. No, but it's good. It's good. I built 5 businesses on that road. So let me quickly go to the question you asked me about Riviera Beach. So being born and raised in Riviera Beach, the city is booming. The city is booming. And I think that, like Russell Conwell says in his book, Acres of Diamonds, we travel all around the world looking for larger diamond finds, when in fact, the diamonds we seek are found within us, in our own hometown. And so I was approached by our city council people and was asked to participate in bidding a project for a fire station. And they were considering doing what's called a public-private partnership of P3. And because I have a lot of experience in this P3 world, because of going to their conferences for over 20 years, I'm very familiar, and I would like to say an expert in that space. And so I did respond to their request. We put together a proposal. My partner is Kaufman Lynn out of Palm Beach County. And we were very successful. And actually, we just had our groundbreaking a couple of weeks ago. But what's more important to me is the ability to include Black contractors from the city, Black workers from the city. First and foremost, we are always talking about small businesses, but my focus and priority is, I know there are a lot of people like me who are looking for an opportunity right where you are. And so my desire is, if I can get enough large projects, I can help a lot more people than competing with them as a small firm.
That's amazing. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Ann McNeil. She is the president and owner of MCO Construction, also the founder of the National Association of Black Women in Construction. We're talking with her at the start of Women's History Month. We're also talking about women in construction, small businesses in construction, minority businesses, just a plethora of things. And I want you to talk to Ann about how doing this project in Riviera Beach, which is the firehouse, is different from building homes, because I think a lot of people always think that the only construction, immediately the first thing that comes to their mind is home building. But
Right.
there's always construction going on, especially here in South Florida.
Well, it's a big difference in terms of when you think about who's your client. And one of the things we don't really talk about very often is when we start businesses, first of all, what business are you really in? And I like to tell people it's 5 businesses, and I'll just share 2. One of them is the business of your craft. So you may be a painter, and so you may paint homes, you may paint businesses. My suggestion is pick one.
Oh, okay.
Niche
And
to
now,
be
why is that? Why is that?
niche to be rich.
Okay.
Niche to be rich. So if you were a contractor and you were a school builder, and the only thing you bid on were schools, right? And you approached me and 2 other people, and let's pretend that we are all painters.
Mhm.
And you asked me, you say, Amiga, what do you do? I say, I'm a painter. You say, what do you paint? You say, oh, I paint houses, I paint roads. What do you have? I paint it, right? Then you approach the second person, you said, yeah, how are you? And they say, I'm doing fine. They say, what do you do? And the second person, let's say her name is Shania.
Mhm.
And you say, Shania, what do you do? Shania says, I'm a painter. And you say, Shania, what do you paint? Oh, well, listen, I paint bridges. Actually, I can paint cars. I can paint churches. I've done it all. What do you have? But then you ask a third person, let's say her name is Kendi.
Mhm.
And you say, Kendi, what do you do? Kendi says, I'm a painter. And you say, well, what do you paint? And Kendi says, listen, I only paint schools. I have been in the school painting business for 20 years. I know the superintendents. I know the inspectors. I'm a member of the school association for
Mhm.
facilities. Now, of the 3 painters, the first 2 are going to be very cheap. Of the 3 painters, which one are you going to choose?
The one that has the experience and what I need. Yeah.
And see, this is what we don't study.
Mhm.
And this is what I began to teach as a consultant and also as a coach, because I'm realizing that you do have people that can paint. You do have people that can do drywall, but if they don't study the business of the business that they're in, they can be an expert house painter, then go in the house painting business. Don't paint anything else but houses. You get in and out.
Right. But then people
So
would say, but we need to be diverse and we need to be able to paint bridges and cars and okay.
send them to me. They don't know what they're talking about. And they will be broke. No, I'm serious. Think about a resume. If your listeners apply for a job
Mhm.
and you're competing with other people, especially in this market, and your resume says you have all of this varied experience, somebody else's resume says they only have experience in one thing and they've been doing it for 20 years with 4 or 5 different firms, which one of those resumes are you going to choose?
Well, now that you've broken it down that way, it makes sense, because the other one, and it almost makes it seem like you didn't find your niche in anything, or you don't have any expertise in just one thing, but you're just loosey goosey. You can do anything. Okay, well, everybody says they can do everything or anything, but you're right. Who is it that if I need you to come in here, I need you to be here at 8 o'clock in the morning painting the walls of this school because you know how to paint the walls of a school. So
Exactly. I call it niche to be rich.
I'm going to write that down again.
Yeah, I call it niche to be rich.
Okay.
I call it niche to be rich. And I know I'm going to have to wrap up, and I'm going to just put a number here. If anybody's interested in connecting with me,
Absolutely.
yes, they can text the word ANN, as ANN, at 55678. And I'll put that here next to my name, and just text the word and I will send them the balance of those questions at that. Yes, because I think it's so important that we understand, how do you go to the next level? And oftentimes we talk about it, but we don't teach it.
Okay.
And so I love to teach, but I also I'm very mindful that each of us must have a dream in order to have a dream come true. And my dream at the time was really just to make $1,000. Now, let me fast forward that story as we wrap up. I am now the first Black female contractor in the state of Florida operating at the level that I do, focusing on billion-dollar programs. And also the founder of the International Mastermind Association from this book, Think and Grow Rich, where I teach people how to mastermind their life and their business. But I'm also the founder of the National Association of Black Women in Construction, and also the owner of MCO Consulting, where we help outreach, monitoring, and compliance. We do that for public sector firms and private sector firms that work on public sector land. And of course, the founder of and owner of MCO Construction. And all of that came out of that one page in that one book, page 28 of Think and Grow Rich.
On December 31st,
1979. 9 p.m. That's
9
right.
p.m. Thank you so much, Ann McNeil.
Oh,
We
my
certainly
pleasure.
appreciate you being here with us. Again, if you want more information, or if you want Ann to send you those tips, or if you want to sign up for one of her classes, definitely send her name. It's ANN, and text it to 55678. Very easy to remember. Ann to 55678, and she will respond back. Thank you so much, Ann McNeil. She is the president and owner of MCO Construction, also the founder of National Association of Black Women in Construction. Thank you so much for being here on Good Morning Miramar. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Until next time.